I have designed and developed the technology to a place where I can build an atmospheric water generator that could produce over 100,000 liters a day, 200,000 liters a day. It's not difficult anymore. You just have to think about it long enough.
And half of the world's largest lakes and reservoirs now contain less water than they did 3 decades ago. Less water in lakes and rivers means less water for human consumption. By the most conservative estimates, over 40% of the world's population will be living in regions facing water scarcity by 2030.
Hello, dear viewers, and welcome to the Creative Society. Today we have an amazing guest with us, Moses West, founder of Moses West Foundation. Water is free for all. That's his motto. And he has been doing a lot in this field to actually help people in difficult situations. And right now, water crisis is one of the most serious topics around the globe. Moses, welcome to our interview, and thank you so much for joining us. Could you tell us a little bit more about yourself, and how did you find yourself in such an interesting field of work?
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for finally being very tenacious enough to finally get in contact with me. It's very difficult these days. A little bit about myself. I'm a military child. My father was in the service. And I have a unique childhood. I would say that I was able to actually grow up in Germany in the late 1950s, early 1960s, close to the end of the Second World War. So I actually grew up as a child playing in the rubble of the war, the Second World War. I lived in Germany, learned how to speak German. My father, as I said, was in the service. And then we came back to the United States. And we came to Texas. And when I moved to Texas as a child, we lived they called it the land of 1,000 springs. I grew up as a child. I would go out in the woods and play with my friends, and we could swim in swimming holes that were crystal clear blue water that we could actually sit there and drink the water. We had holes coming out of the ground. We had water. Texas was called the land of 1,000 springs, the place that is very dry today. And then living there, we had this... we had a great study program in school because we knew how important water was. So we studied the Edwards Underground Aquifer. We would go, speakers would come to the school and talk about it. And the Edwards Aquifer was a big deal for us growing up as children in Texas. And I never forgot that. I graduated from high school, and then went on to college there in Texas and went into the military. I saw water scarcity in the military. I was several times, we carried 2 canteens of water. We had to share water with other soldiers as we walked 50 miles up and down mountains. And we saw how precious it was. And we would have to find water to drink from streams, put our tablets in it, and iodine tablets to decontaminate the water to make sure it was potable. And the importance of water was always in my life of some of the things that I was doing. And then I went to Australia after I got out of the military, and I saw the devastation of climate change firsthand in Australia. I got there in 2001. Actually, I was there the day of 9/11 was the day that I actually arrived in Australia. So I'll never forget that day and where I was. But living in Australia, I experienced water insecurity, water scarcity, and the damage due to water disappearing from drought, too much water, and everything in between. And then I got interested in finding a solution for it. And I find myself sitting here today with you talking about it.
Thank you so much. It's a very interesting life story, and you've done so much. And basically, many people who come in from military background, they have seen a little bit more, and they have traveled around the world like yourself. We've interviewed people who, coming from different countries around the globe, and in many places, exactly like you said, some places have too much water, some places have not enough water, and sometimes it's both. And then it's a disaster when it's a flood, but also there is no drinking water for the population. So we have been very much inspired with the idea of your nonprofit organization. And the very fact that you're doing so much to overcome this water crisis. So what is the main goal that you put for yourself and the organization?
I have the foundation, the Moses West Foundation, but I also have a for-profit company where I build military equipment for the United States military. I was working with them just last week on some large machines, like machines I took to Flint and Puerto Rico. And so a lot of people see my foundational work, but believe it or not, what the military does when they give me a piece of equipment back that they don't want back, I can take that piece of equipment, I can rehabilitate that piece of equipment, and then I can take that and go help a community that needs water. And these are usually the bigger machines that I produce. And so the foundation and the goal of what I want to do is whenever we moved anywhere in the world, whenever we went anywhere as a people, when our community, when we said, okay, we're a group of people and we need to expand and we need to go live over in this place. And so we're going to take our families and we're going to go across the continent, and this is where we're going to live. And so when they were moving, when they found the place where they wanted to live, and this has happened throughout history, the number one thing that they had to find was water. And right today, we have a planet, and there's several things happening. There's several points coming to a place of congruence today. One, we have a massive population that needs to move to some location where there's water. Two, we do not have much water. And three, it's a planet's very crowded and there's not many places to go. The goal is to prove and to provide to the public and to the world that you're not out of water. The way that I see it in my mind, and the way that the scientific community sees it as well, is the planet is getting warmer. This we can't deny, correct? As the planet warms, what happens? Water starts to evaporate. We're going to have, in the next 10 years, 23% more water in the atmosphere than we do today. And that's going to continue throughout the history of this planet as long as it continues to warm. So that moisture that's in the atmosphere, we see it when it comes down to massive storms, floods. There's some floods that are happening not only just due to snowmelt, but massive floods that happen due to just cloud explosions because there's so much moisture in the air. And so with this technology, what it allows people to do is there's land around the planet. There's beautiful land everywhere on this globe that we live on. With this technology, you're able to go there. And I'm not just the person that builds small machines. I have designed and developed the technology to a place where I can build an atmospheric water generator that could produce over 100,000 liters a day, 200,000 liters a day. It's not difficult anymore. You just have to think about it long enough. So my goal with this technology is to allow people to be able to live wherever they would like to live and never have to worry about water scarcity. Because as long as you can breathe, as long as you're pulling in air, there is moisture in that air. And we use the advancements in scientific technology and the advancements in the new materials that we make, the new compression that we make in fans and turbines to produce this water very efficiently and completely net zero.
Wow. That's amazing. And as you said, the planet is getting warmer. We know that humanity keeps emitting emissions which are only keep heating up. From recent findings, which we conducted through interviews, you know, what is the most underestimated anthropogenic factor is actually pollution of ocean with microplastic, because microplastic traps heat. It's the very same effect that we know the carbon as a part of microplastic traps heat. And now we know that 100% samples of ocean waters from around the world are polluted with microplastic. And, you know, recent findings, again, they've found it in every fish, every sample of water from the ocean, in human cells, in placenta, in blood, even in human body parts. So One of the very questions, I was about to ask it a little bit further, but since you touched upon this thing, is it possible to clean up the moisture we're getting from the atmosphere through some filtration in those atmospheric water generators, including from such things as microplastic and additional, pollutants?
Absolutely, 100%. The way the machine is designed, the air that comes into the machine is filtered to start with. Then the moisture is condensed out of the moisture that's in the air. So the only thing that the machine is seeking is the H2O molecule, which is smaller than a piece of microplastic. And when you do this in a pristine environment, and then once that water is created, before the water even is pulled through the system, the first stage before it even hits the first pump that's pulling it, there's not a pump pushing it, there's a pump pulling the water. It pulls it through a micron filter, and that takes off heavy particles. Then it goes, and before the water goes into the water storage tank aboard the larger machines that I built, and the larger machines, this process will look the same even in a large facility where I'm producing 100,000 liters of water a day. That goes through several stages of micron filtration. Again, there's nothing that's going to stay in that water. The filtration strips everything off. Then, yet again, when it goes into the tank, before it comes out to the consumer or the people who use the water, it goes through another large section of carbon filtration laced with silver so that it not only doesn't impede the growth of bacteria, but it strips off anything else that's in the water. It's an incredible process. So what you get out of the next side of the end of the machine is you get something that is absolutely the purest form of pristine water that you can get. And then you have that you say, well, I want to tailor that water to what I like in it. Add whatever minerals you would like to that water. You could add fizzy soda to it if you like. You just have this vitamins, minerals, whatever you want to do with it. It's just pure water. Microplastics.
That's incredible.
So we can actually clean areas up. We can clean whole areas up. What I would like to do with it, if you don't mind, what I would like to do with this is we do have enough plastic in us, each person in the world today, and in some countries even more. We digest enough plastic to make a plastic bag every year now. It's affecting us. It's affecting there's endocrine disruptors in there. It's affecting the birth of children, birth weight. It's affecting people mentally. It's very unhealthy. And so what we have to do is we have to start to not only, it's in the food, so we have to start sealing off places where we clean the water extremely well, and all this is possible. Grow the food with absolutely pure water. Denmark does this very well. Vertical grow food inside of buildings, filter the air, because this is what we've done to our planet. So that way, when you get food coming from the store, you can have your grapefruit, your avocado, your eggplant, your carrots, your tomatoes, and you know that there's no massive microplastics on the surface or within the meat of the food, of the fruits and vegetables.
That is amazing. And that brings us to the next question, because today, when we check in, how is actually water being used? Only about 10% is being used for cities and for personal usage. Most of it goes for agriculture. And when you check how exactly it's being used in agriculture, it's basically huge waste of water where it's been dumped and it's gone. And none of it is being actually even checked. When there are even occurrences when they say, hey, you have a bad channel there, you have a lot of leaks and pipes in the cities. City officials say, we don't want to check those, because if we check and we find them, we're going to have to spend money on sealing them. And we're not looking to spend more money. Let it be whatever it be. But the interesting topic you brought up with vertical farming, it can reduce the amount of water needed for providing the very same amount of food 10 times and even more. Is it possible if we implement atmospheric water generators, not by themselves, as not to replace the amount of water that is being used today by agriculture, because that is a huge waste, but if we implement it alone with vertical farming, can we switch on planetary level? If, of course, that's dreaming big, but if we set a goal, is it possible to use atmospheric water generators to actually produce everything humanity needs when it comes to food and water supplies?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I live in a state of frustration when I see the things that are already made, that we already do, and then I'm building machines that are mobile, that make 2,000, 5,000 liters of water a day, up to 10,000 liters of water a day, that just need to be married with a greenhouse and grow food. And then there's a solar array over here that's, with a battery that's putting out that's saving 460 volts of power, 3-phase with the inverters. If I had all three of those, I could take and put them together. This is all off the shelf. And just put them together. I could eliminate this problem in a city where they say, we don't have any fruits or vegetables. No, because you can grow them right where you're at. You can grow them there. And so can we do this on a planetary level? Absolutely. Absolutely. With the equatorial zone that surrounds the planet, the equator, north and south, there's a certain zone around the planet that is absolutely laden with moisture in the air. And to grow food this way, it would be revolutionary to the food industry. It could change in one generation. It could change the health of children that are obese today, and the adults that are obese, because we don't have access to the healthiest food and the cleanest foods that we need to have. Absolutely, to the answer to your question, it should have been done. I said this 10 years ago. It should have been done then. They did it in Puerto Rico. My machine was operating on solar power. The farmers couldn't grow food. So I would give the farmers 200 or 300 gallons of water a day, and they started growing the leafy vegetables for the restaurants on the island of Vieques, Puerto Rico, because they couldn't grow them otherwise. I kept 2 restaurants in business and provided 15,000 people with drinking water on solar power in Puerto Rico, doing this on a small scale.
Wow. That is incredible, because when it comes to the fact that there is a new technology and people on mass scale probably not even aware of the fact that we can get water from air, people start raising questions like, why wouldn't we already have this implemented if this is so good? What are the downsides to the ecology and so on? And I would like to hear more, especially for the viewers who are hearing for the first time, because sometimes they say, oh, what about ecology? What about this, that? You already mentioned it's net zero, so it wouldn't contribute any carbons into the atmosphere. Could you tell us a little bit more? Is there any harm from implementation of atmospheric water generators to ecology or our environment?
Absolutely not. A professor came from one of the Ivy League schools and asked me a question one day about pulling moisture out of the air. And this was a doctor. And this doctor told me, says, if we put these machines everywhere, you're going to change the whole ecology of the planet. And I just had to say, there's no such thing as a question that shouldn't be asked, but they should be explained. We do more damage to the planet, and to our water, and to our air when we drop a 500-pound bomb. When we fire a depleted uranium round out of an M1 Abrams tank, a kinetic energy weapon, when we set off underground nuclear tests. That what we do with military explosives globally, that does so much more damage to this planet. Where here's a technology, when you look at it like this, when you have a machine that's pulling water out of the air, and then you take it out of the air, and then you spray it out right where you're standing, everything around the machine gets green. All the trees grow. If we drink the water, it only stays with us for a few hours, and then it comes out of us. If we put it on a plant, the plant uses it, we eat the plant, the water goes back into the system. The only thing that we're doing is the water is running by us really quick, we're capturing it, we're growing something, we're eating it, and then the water continues to go on. We're only borrowing water momentarily. We're not taking water and like hydraulic fracturing and pushing it into the ground, never to see it again. No, what we're doing is we're taking the moisture that's in the air here today, and from the surface to 10,000 feet, there's a thing called the troposphere. It is absolutely 100% impossible for me sitting here in Illinois next to this giant lake, Lake Michigan, to change the ecology of the planet. When my machine sits next to Lake Michigan, if you're a mile out in the lake, you can't even see my machine, but you're sitting in this massive body of water that's just evaporating. You're not hurting that thing at all.
And thank you for elaborating on this, because that is, again, that is the question that people ask. And, that brings us to something you started with, that because of the heating up of the planet and because ocean polluted with microplastic traps so much heat, much more than it should if it wasn't for anthropogenic pollution of ocean with microplastic, the amount of water that basically we contribute into the atmosphere by keeping polluting our oceans with microplastic is tremendous. And we have to start solving this problem somehow. And, based on our research, what we were conducted with the specialists, what they say, if we would to implement this kind of technology, if we would stop taking water from natural reservoirs and, artificially created reservoirs, which are, by the way, also damaging ecology because they create an additional pressure on tectonic plates in the places where it wasn't naturally occurring prior to that, right? So if we start taking water with atmospheric water generators, it would speed up the natural cycle, and it would take that additional moisture, some part of it, that right now is running down as hurricanes, as massive tornadoes, as additional heat in the atmosphere. We could actually slowly but surely help to clean up our ocean by simply speeding up the process of natural cycle of water in the atmosphere.
Yes, if I look at if you look at off the coast of Africa where the hurricanes start, then they roll across the Atlantic, and then they form into hurricanes, and then they hit the eastern United States and the southeastern United States. The southern states is where most of the hurricanes come through. Well, where they start is places where if they have torrential rains and high heat, the hurricanes are going to be worse. And then there was a report that just came out. The ocean has never been hotter in the history of mankind. We haven't had the ocean this hot in any recorded history, and even back through times of millions of years ago. The ocean is hot. Now, what that tells me is I should be scared. You should have fear of this, because the ocean being that hot, the storm's going to be much larger. But if the systems, this is kind of thinking more in a science fiction type of way, but if at the place where the hurricanes start and you have the capability right now, having the lead in the technology in the way that I build this, if you had stadium size stadium-sized atmospheric water generators where these storms generate, in these places where the migratory migration of water happens. I don't know what would happen. That would have to be a study that would be done with several universities, but it'd be well worth it as we move into the future. Because right now we need solutions. We need solutions. And even if they seem far-fetched, it's better than doing absolutely nothing.
Absolutely agree with you, and this is something to be studied. Again, we never seen the consequences of our inaction. When it comes to microplastic, we only started polluting it in 1950s, so it's not even studied yet, the consequences. But we already see, as you just said, absolutely correct, that we've never seen such increase in temperature of the ocean as it happened in 2023 and now 2024. And we see what's happening when even models of predicting of hurricanes, they are not working anymore. For example, let's take the Hurricane Otis that hit Acapulco in 2023 and basically destroyed the city. It was never supposed to intensify like it did within only 12 hours, going from tropical storm to Category 5, from nothing to the most powerful hurricane possible. And now there are even conversations going on that we need to invent new category 6, because Category 5 is not even suitable for the kind of hurricanes we're expecting right now. And here is one where I would like to also mention for the viewers that your foundation has successfully helped people to overcome water crisis as a result of natural disasters in 9 different missions. And, nationwide in the US, you're very well known, at least for myself. I found out about your work through Flint, Michigan, where there was a serious threat when the water was polluted, and you came with your machine and was basically giving it away for free for people simply to fill out their jugs of water. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about that story, but also in general, how atmospheric water generators can help people to overcome the water crisis, especially when climatic threats are on the rise and so on.
Absolutely. The mission to Flint started when I was with the military. I had the large machines on the military base doing a program of record for the military. The general asked me when the Flint crisis happened, he said, "Moses, what would you do?" Well, I said, "General, I would park this system in Flint and I would do the mission." And then all of a sudden Hurricane Maria hit. And when Hurricane Maria hit, that was even more severe. And they had done a news special on television, and someone saw me walking down the street. And they said, "I want to give you $1,000. And I said, "You can't give me $1,000 because I don't have any way to take it. I'm a for-profit company. I work for the military." And so my attorney said, "Start a foundation." I started a foundation. I took a system to Puerto Rico. We'll talk about that later. Then I met someone in Flint while I was in Puerto Rico who was completely out of water. And someone gave them a 2-gallon jug of water that I produced. They came to visit me and they said, "If you can make it to Flint, will you come?" I said, "When I finish working here in Puerto Rico, when I get another machine, because I'm going to leave this one here, I will come to Flint." I got back to the States. It took me some time to recover because I was the only one working there doing that. And then I took a machine to Flint, Michigan. What I did in Flint with the machine was in the neighborhood. It was a big 20-foot ISO container, very disenfranchised neighborhood. And the cranes came out, the trucks came out, the people came out, and they asked me what I was doing. I said, "The machine makes water." And I said, "Just watch, and you'll see what happens." And some of them had heard about what I'd done in Puerto Rico. So I had the press lay off. We set the machine up because I wanted the neighborhood to work with me and the technology, because people usually come to these neighborhoods to take. And so when we set the machine up and it started making water, we're making over 1,000 gallons of water a day. And I had to convince people that I didn't want anything from them, that I was just there to actually give them water. And so people were donating money to Flint, and the big truck would show up and they would put the bottled water out. people would show up in their cars, they'd put it in the cases in the trunk, and they would drive off. There would be so many cars, they'd run out of bottled water. Then people learned that, hey, there's this big green machine over there. They've got 1 gallon jugs, they've got 2 gallon jugs. You can bring your own jugs. And we just sat there all day long. And as people took a gallon, the machine made 15 gallons. You take water out of it, it's continuously working all day, it's continuously making water. So it became a fixture of the neighborhood, and it was very successful. Where we're at, crime went down, gangs decided to work together. Their mothers and fathers, they came to this place to get water. It became a place of security, central to the community. And it was extremely successful. And so when we did that, it was absolutely phenomenal. And so the fourth ward, they never had to get one plastic bottle of water as long as the machine was there.
Wow, that's incredible. And what did people ask? Were people shocked that you just giving away the water for free? And
yes, they were. They were like, nobody does anything for free. I says, look, all you guys go to church. Don't they tell you, it's better to give than to receive? In the United States, where Calvin Coolidge said, I think it was Calvin Coolidge that said, the business of America is business. It's always about what you can get. But we're at a place in time where we need to take care of our neighbor. We've done enough damage to the planet, to ourselves, to the social fabric of the nation. It comes back to a point where people need to work together. My neighbor has differences than I have. We think differently, but as long as we communicate with each other, we have so much common ground. And so in Flint, when I went there, I had to explain to people, I had to talk with people every day just to let them know, hey, look, there are actually people still left in the world that do these kinds of things because we can do them. And I said, people outside of your community are donating to help this stay afloat. The Robert Rauschenberg Foundation, LaToya Ruby Frazier, the artist, she came out, she took pictures, she donated her money, and she brought star power to the effort. And so we didn't run out of money while we were there doing this humanitarian mission. So it's all about the donations to get a machine where it needs to go. Like right now, I have a machine exactly like that Flint machine. Exactly like that Flint machine. I need to build more, but this machine right now, there's people in Baltimore that need this machine. There's people in California. There's someone in Missouri that needs it. There's people in Louisiana that need it. So what they do right now is they come up and they visit me at this location. I show them the technology and what is possible. And then I try to raise the funds, the donations that I need to get to continue to build these machines or build another one just like it.
Okay, so here we come. So when you say, I tell people how it works first, because most people don't even know. And, when we come into questioning, like, how can we spread information? How can we create mass requests from population to implement these amazing machines? We come to the fact that most people not even aware that it's possible to get water out of the air. And you told us a little bit about the amazing side of it, how it can be purified through your machine. But can you tell us a little bit more about how it works? What kind of principles it works on? Like, what actually happens when you switch on the machine? What happens? Like on tech.
Okay. Yeah, there's this. I never get tired of this because I've got to the place where the refrigerant in the machine, and then over a surface area, and the surface area is large. So when you have a cold glass of ice outside on a humid day, and that glass just starts to get covered with water, and then the waitress has to come out or the waiter comes out and he has to wipe off the table from that cold glass of water that you pulled out. Mm-hmm. Well, this machine does the same thing, except it does it on steroids. This whole machine is designed to do nothing except stay at a temperature within this controlled environment inside over this surface area, pull air over it, and it makes it rain. It just makes it rain inside it. And so at altitude, you have sand in the clouds and you have moisture up there. The moisture hits on, it attaches to the little particle, sand or dust, and then it comes down to another temperature and then or goes up and it reaches that perfect temperature and it makes it rain. Basically, the same thing that's happening up in the clouds is the same thing that I'm doing inside the machine at ground. Once the machine is up and running and at full speed and all the temperatures correct, then the PLC starts to control the temperature to maintain it through a wide variety of temperatures and humidities to track where the dew point is to know where you can produce water. So when it's super hot and humid outside, the machine doesn't have to work as hard. When it's cooler or drier outside, the machine has to power up a little bit. So the machine is not a steady run machine. It's always going up or down. It's adjusting accordingly because it's tracking the temperature and humidity through the day to stay at the perfect place to produce water. And that's why the energy consumption is so low.
Wow. And when it comes to energy consumption, it's one of the things that people usually ask about. Well, that's amazing technology, but what about the energy usage? How much energy does it use comparing maybe to other things? Or if you could explain, like, how efficient is the machine compared to maybe traditional creation of water when it comes to currently they build desalination plants, which hurt ocean so much and cost so much and create pollution by the ocean shore. We have channels that go from North California, from Nevada, only to bring water to Los Angeles and Southern California. We have to fight leaks on the way. We have to fight leaks in the pipes. We have to create this huge infrastructure. There are turbines. We have to provide energy for turbines to push that water. Like, there is so much involved that we're not probably even taking into account. So if we take all of that into account, maintenance, cleaning up the channels again, and we're taking atmospheric water generators, like, how efficient can that be? And what is actually needed for us to start, like, as humanity or even as a country to start implementing them on massive scale?
The atmospheric water generator, you're absolutely right. There's a high cost to moving water to a house. So when I was giving my evaluation paperwork for the technology, they said groundwater is at 0.12 kilowatt hours for a 1 liter. After we did our testing for the machine, we came out at 0.08 kilowatt hours to produce a liter. So basically, that's cheaper than groundwater. So when I sat that machine in Flint, the person who walked over with a gallon jug to fill it up and walk home with that gallon jug just across the street, they expended more energy in that short walk to the machine than that machine took to produce that liter of water. And it did it where they needed it. You didn't have to move it from the lake to the house, to the neighborhood. It was right there. So point-specific water production. You have a community, you're producing water right where it's needed. You don't need the infrastructure. You don't need the piping. You don't need any of that. And how close are we to getting to that? Oh, yeah. And the next thing is I'm trying to put zeros in between that decimal point. So my goal is 0.008 or better for water production. And since I've developed a new way to produce the water, that's absolutely possible. So what would we need to do right now? We need kind of something like a Marshall Plan for water or water production, water technologies. I'm not saying that atmospheric water generation is the only way to do it. But what I'm saying is it's part of the team. When we play a sport, when we play soccer, when we play football, when we play any sport, basketball, we work together as a team to succeed. So with this technology and every technology in the world that produces water, instead of being competitive, like the United States is so competitive that sometimes it's annoying because they're always doing stuff to benefit A company's always doing something to benefit a few, benefit the shareholders. Right now, the shareholders that we need to benefit are the people in the United States, the people globally, the people who live in the Middle East, the people who live in South Africa, Central America, South America, Australia, all the people that live on the Pacific Islands. What we need to do is have a team effort, not just atmospheric water generators. Desal has a place in here. Groundwater desal has a place in here. Rainwater catchment has a place in here. Even the bottled water companies have a place in here because we need to get water to people so they can survive. And instead of working separately and trying to undermine each other, we need to work together because it's a global problem. And this is one of the problems that we have today is we tend to work more towards the profit instead of the human profit. And that's one thing I concentrate on. I concentrate on the human profit. And whatever years I have left in my life, that's what I do.
That's actually a very serious topic you're touching upon right now, that, even with Creative Society, that's our volunteer project. It started from mass survey. We were asking people around the globe what kind of society you would like to live in. And all people, the most common answer was in which human life is number one value, not money, not political interest, but human life over money and over profit. That's so simple. If we simply switch to making decisions based on what benefits people and not only what generates more money for a small group of people, which are stakeholders of the company, how different would our life be? And as you said, all people should benefit right now from this technology. When you're saying about competition and so on, we also know that in Flint, in the very Flint, your machine was vandalized because we don't know. Could you tell us a little bit more about that? Because I know from the clips on social media that it was somebody messed up with generator. They knew exactly what kind of things they were doing, so it wasn't just some random people, probably. But could you tell us a little bit more, please?
Yes, I can. I thought it was securing the machine well, but what the damage that they did to the machine was it was damage that would make the machine operate, but over time it would destroy it, and it did. It destroyed my compressor, and it messed up the generator. But the true story where the tenacity of the people of Flint come into play is that it was myself, Otis Cheatham, and Randy Welch's, two men from the neighborhood, and myself. We got all the parts together. We actually had them ship a compressor from my old machine in Puerto Rico, 500 pounds, to Flint. We repaired that machine in that field in a week and got it back in operation. People don't know that. They say the machine was destroyed and stayed down. The true story is that we repaired that machine in that field. And that is something that really needs to be done in the shop. It's a very sensitive job, but we stood out there in that field and we did it and we got it back in operation. What I've seen from different companies whenever I go somewhere now, because there's a social media presence, there's some notoriety behind what I'm doing. There's other companies coming online wanting to do it. I've been saying this for the past 10 years. This is where we need to go. Been working closely with the military to get it implemented. And what I find now is companies, they'll follow you into an area. There's a company that does the solar panel. There's companies that build water generators themselves. And if I post that I'm going someplace, I've been a couple of places, and they would actually come into that same neighborhood and set up close to me. And I would find out about it. I'm not into corporate espionage. I'm there to do some good and help people. And I'm sorry, but that's not what I want to do. So I will have to leave. And I said, if you all want to take over and you want to do this job, now that I've given you the notoriety that you need, because I was going to be here, please, by all means, do what you can do. But yeah, it can be a very nefarious and very cutthroat industry. because of people are starting to see what the profit margins can be. But instead of looking at the profit margins, I just beg people, please, 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 look at the humanity of what can be done. Look at what you can do for people after hurricanes. People who, like out in when they had the train derailment over here in Ohio. Look what you could have done for the people. Look at the people in Texas. Look at the people in California. Look at the people in inner city where you can grow food, be 100% sustainable, net zero. The planet is getting hotter. Water's contaminated. Look at the good. And just stop this massive rush to for the bottom line and shareholders to grade.
Absolutely, because that could be our finish line as a humanity, and at the current pace of progression of devastating cataclysms, we might reach the point where we might even get conflicts for water, which has been predicted. There are already, like, for example, we were talking some countries. If we take two African countries, Egypt is not getting enough water because there is a dam on the river up the stream. And what they say, if they're not gonna want the dam over there, they have very good military. They have, all it takes is 2 missiles to take down the dam. So it can be a huge catastrophe. When we're talking to people in Spain, it's the very same region, and the government starts building channels from North Spain to South where they have drought. The farmers would come with their tractors and they would shut down the stream, the channels by making a dam over there with ground, using tractors to block the stream of water, because they say our farms comes first. We want the water to stay here. We're not getting enough. So we might get this conflicts for the water for no reason at all. This is the most absurd thing ever, that we have technology, we have everything needed to produce these things. We have everything needed for issue of water to become non-existent on the face of our planet, and yet that is not happening. We're seeing this conflicts and this nonsense happening. So what do you think is necessary to actually overcome it and start putting human life first, as been said?
What we need is, what I'm trying to do right now today is, I have some things coming up that I'm getting ready to do, and we need one area where all of this technology is set in and implemented, and all these things that people can see, touch, feel, and operate, and see how it operates. That needs to be done. I can write as many research papers as I want, demonstrate the technology in several places, but in one place, there needs to be a complete sustainability institute where you're using atmospheric water, solar, you're using every green technology possible to produce food, water, and energy in one location where people can see what's happening. And just to step back for a second to this water issue that we're facing. In the next 5 years, the headwaters, where so many rivers in Asia, they start in the Himalayas. In the Himalayas, from glaciers. Glaciers are retreating. Throughout Europe, there are rivers that do not flow anymore because the glaciers have gone. The place where I learned how to ski was called the Zugspitze in Germany. I learned how to ski in like June, July, and August because there was a glacier up in the mountains. And that's where we went. That glacier is gone, but it fed a river that ran down the Alps into a small town. Countries are damming up the headwaters to these main rivers, the Yangtze, the Yalu, the Mekong, the Perfume. All these rivers, the headwaters that come out of the Himalayas, are being dammed. Europe is doing it right now, up in the Alps. The glaciers, where there was glaciers melting, they're really smart. People need to research this and look. They built dams that they were holding the glacial water. Now they have water to drink and produce hydroelectric power. This is something new. But the people downstream, I don't know if they know this, that their rivers are being dammed up where they're created. So as a society, what we need to do is we need to implement now. because this year is going to be hotter than anything we've ever seen. I talked to some people in Arizona who are actually building safe rooms in their houses, 1 foot of insulation all the way around, special air conditioner so they can go in there, because in Arizona, they're expecting to hit 135 degrees in Arizona. So they're building safe rooms in their houses because they know that they can't, their air conditioners will not be able to keep the whole house cool. So what we need to do to advance this technology is, I talk about it a lot, and I talk about the technology, I give lectures on it, but here where I live in Chicago, I need to find the spot, and we're getting that together now, probably this summer, just a place where all of this takes place. The atmospheric water generator, the vertical grow operation, the solar power, solar panels, the industrial battery that's putting out 480 volts. That's what we need to do, so everybody can see it.
That's something we've been also studying and conducting research on rise of temperatures, and what is happening right now is unprecedented. We really want everyone to find out about this. That's a very good thing that people at least prepare in Arizona, because they know. I've been to Phoenix, and I know even 110 is awful. 110 is when you don't feel outside, and 130 plus sounds terrible. But what's amazing is that we are humans. We if we behave as humans, we have these amazing technologies. As you said, we can build Abram tanks, depleted uranium, but we can also use the very same scientists, amazing scientists that we have on planetary scale. And what we've been talking about, we need unified scientific center on global scale. We need best scientists from Russia, Iran, North Korea, and United States to work on the same page, not to destroy each other. We can very easily do that. But climate is already doing a better job at destroying. If you take a look at city of Acapulco and you see war zones, it pretty much resembles a bombarded city or something that has been ruined even more efficiently than using nukes or any weaponry. We don't use our technologies to save people's lives. And that is the problem, that with having this tremendous potential, all the technologies are right there, and we're not using it because there is no demand from population, because people not even aware. And here's where we found this amazing phrase on your website, and I would like to read it. It goes, "We, with the right blend of technology and heart, we can tackle the world's most pressing challenges." With the right blend of technology and heart. Could you explain a little bit more what exactly it means to you?
Technology is a means to an end. Technology is it allows us to advance the humankind. We create vaccines that save children's lives. We create surgeries that save people's lives. And to have, I like what Jonas Salk did with the polio vaccine. They said, well, he must have been a billionaire. Nope. He gave it away. And so with heart in a technology, what we have to do is, everyone says, oh my God, you can make so much money. But then I say, but I can save so many lives. So you have two currencies. You have a currency of doing good, of a humanity. There's people who put themselves in the face of danger every day to provide food to a population, to bring water to people, to go help someone in a combat zone. And so in a position that I'm in my mentality, in my mindset, I want to use my engineering prowess and technology to advance the humankind, to help save a life. I don't want to build something that's destructive. I build something that saves lives. When I go see my machine laid out, and I had some guest stuff from a defense contractor, and I explain the machine to them with a military background, I tell them, I know y'all want to use this technology, but everything that you see laid out here in front of you, all the schematics, all the diagrams, all the massive evaporators, condensers, compressors, I do this to save people's lives. Everyone that's working in my shop, they know that me as the boss, the guy that's in charge of this operation, I'm doing this to help people, not for profit, but to help people.
That is amazing. And we really can see it through your work and through all the missions you did, through all the people you helped when they needed the help the most. And we, unfortunately, right now, there will be more and more demand for people to simply get water. And what we have been trying to deliver this message to the people, basically as Creative Society volunteers, we're doing it on volunteer basis in our free from work time. We contribute to this project, taking interviews like this, compiling documentary videos and putting them out there so people know how much technology we have, not only when it comes to water, but when it comes to food production, vertical farming, when it comes to energy production. We have fuel-free generators, and we did a short film on them. And there was a conference in Switzerland last year, which our volunteers also covered. We show them these technologies, and we just keep on getting more and more amazed. Like, our life could be so much better if we simply implement this, but with a heart. It has to be done with heart. If it's going to be done only for profit, to create money, we're going to see suppression of these technologies. Many of them have been existing for many decades, but not out there yet, unfortunately. But right now, hopefully, because technologies, again, allow us to connect worldwide, and hopefully many people will see this interview, and maybe it's going to inspire them, and policymakers and investors and people who actually can contribute to spreading this information in media, in social media. That's what we would like to do. Maybe encourage people to share this information. Mr. West, thank you so much for being with us today. This has been incredible. Such an inspiring interview, and your stand on things when it comes to, keep standing up and doing your thing despite all the obstacles. And it wasn't easy, but again, as with Flint, you brought the machine back up and got it running only in 1 week. So, and I'm sure you have a lot of incredible stories through your life that prove that with desire and with actual putting your efforts into the right place, we can all achieve amazing things, accomplish them. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.